Never, no, 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 never in a million years would I have expected to see it like this. Sean Strickland just defeated Khamzat Chimaev in a close decision, which, by the way, Strickland nearly got robbed. Chimaev was a -500 favorite live, and I don't know how, because Strickland clearly won rounds 2, 3, and 5. The scorecards were insane. 2 judges got it right, 2, 3, 5 for Strickland. The fact that a judge scored round 5 for Chimaev is embarrassing. I got owned. I got completely owned. Never in a million years would I thought Sean Strickland to be the guy to beat Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev looked labored in round 2, but looked more energetic in rounds 3 and 4. I mean, wow. Sean Strickland, 2 of the biggest upsets, 2 of the biggest championship upsets in the sport's history. You can't say much about it. You can't say much about it other than just say, wow. Have to tip my hat off to him. I couldn't have been any more wrong. Joshua Van as well, an unbelievable performance. A weird stoppage a little later, considering how they let the fight go. But at the end of the day, he was battering Tyra. I was 8-2 on my predictions, and up until we go to the last 3, ended up blowing them. And Khamzat Chimaev loses it. The top comment for that one video will be addressed, and I will hit the guy up. Do not worry. Insane. Literally an unbelievable card. We're going to have a lot more videos on Sean Strickland coming out real soon.
All right, this weekend it is UFC 328. It's the big one. Sean Strickland taking on Khamzat Chimaev. The build-up to this one has quite frankly been ridiculous. The anticipation for this fight is at an all-time high. Or are they even going to do a face-off? Because security risk. There's police following Khamzat wherever he goes. There's been death threats.
But if you come up to me with 3...
The silence that engulfed the arena when those scorecards were announced was absolutely deafening, a crushing quiet that seemed to suck all the oxygen out of the room. Khamzat Chimaev, the fighter they dubbed the Unstoppable Wolf, who was destined to demolish the entire middleweight landscape, stood motionless as reality crashed down around him. Sean Strickland had accomplished the unthinkable, capturing a narrow decision that most observers believed should never have been competitive in the first place. The mystique surrounding Chimaev didn't just suffer minor damage, it exploded into countless fragments right there on center stage for millions to witness. For someone whose entire reputation was built on being the destroyer rather than the destroyed, enduring 5 rounds of punishment represented a mental catastrophe that nobody predicted he could overcome.
Wherever he goes, there's been death threats.
But if you come up to me with 3 Chechens that don't speak English, I'm going to pull my gun and I'm going to each and every one of you.
People saying that they're going to get shot, this, that, and the other.
The shocking upset blindsided everyone in the combat sports world, particularly the Las Vegas bookmakers, who installed Chimaev as an overwhelming -500 betting favorite before the opening bell. Thousands of bettors wagered enormous sums, convinced that Khamzat would steamroll through Strickland like he was facing an amateur during a light training session. However, as each round unfolded, the expected domination transformed into a grueling battle for survival that left spectators stunned. When they entered the championship rounds where elite fighters typically assert their dominance, the man who boldly proclaimed he would destroy everyone in his path appeared desperate to escape the confines of that octagon. This represented a catastrophic meltdown of what many considered the most promising rising star in UFC history.
At the end of the day, they are going to get let loose inside the octagon with 4 house gloves on, and when the dust settles, we may have a new champion, because Sean Strickland, let me tell you, is...
The fight's technical analysis reveals an even more troubling picture than the final verdict suggests. Strickland clearly dominated rounds 2, 3, and 5 with undeniable precision and control, leaving little room for legitimate debate. Yet the official scorecards created confusion and controversy that nearly resulted in one of the sport's most egregious judging errors. The judge who awarded round 5 to Chimaev made a decision that combat sports experts are calling completely indefensible and professionally embarrassing. Chimaev appeared exhausted and sluggish by the second frame, desperately searching for the cardiovascular conditioning that typically fuels his explosive attacks and overwhelming pressure. He faced an opponent who completely dismissed the intimidation factor and treated the hype as meaningless once they were locked inside together.
Strickland, let me tell you, is not intimidated one little bit. He's not bothered at the fact that Khamzat released a little bit of sparring footage. In fact, he says that that shows weakness from Khamzat Chimaev and just shows what kind of man he is.
Oh, God. You know, it's funny. That's what led to me calling him out. Was it like, how long was the clip? 23 seconds. But, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the guy's just a little f***ing rat, dude. One, I didn't even know we were filming. Those were our warm-up rounds.
This defeat represents far more than a simple career stumble. It feels like the premature conclusion of a championship reign that never truly materialized. When death threats become part of your daily routine, police protection becomes necessary for basic movement, and armed security follows your every step. The psychological pressure reaches levels that would break most human beings. The environment surrounding UFC 328 transcended typical promotional buildup and became a volatile powder keg of hatred, personal animosity, and stakes that extended beyond athletic competition. Chima wasn't simply facing another skilled competitor, he was battling the suffocating weight of global expectations combined with personal hatred that had escalated to dangerous levels. The mounting pressure eventually reached a breaking point where something had to collapse, and unfortunately for Khamzat, his performance crumbled when it mattered most.
I didn't know we were filming, and those are our warm-up rounds. You're just a weak man.
Well, guess what? We're going to see what kind of men they both are inside the octagon. We know that Khamzat's undefeated.
The promotional campaign leading up to this fight descended into genuine menace, featuring discussions of weapons, survival instincts, and threats that crossed well beyond acceptable trash talk boundaries. Strickland wasn't engaging in typical promotional banter to generate pay-per-view sales and media attention. He projected an image of unbreakable resolve and calculated instability that penetrated Chimaev's mental armor in unprecedented ways. While Khamzat attempted to maintain composure during press obligations, claiming he welcomed the financial benefits that Strickland's antics would provide, the underlying reality was far more intense and personal. This confrontation had evolved beyond sport and entertainment into something primal and potentially dangerous that threatened to consume both men.
We're going to see what kind of men they both are inside the octagon. We know that Khamzat's undefeated. He's got ridiculous wrestling and power. He's got a very cool, mellow, calm vibe about him this week. In fact, he says that he loves Sean Strickland because he's getting paid an absolute fortune for this fight, and Sean Strickland's only making it bigger.
Strickland's mental warfare reached masterful levels, especially when he dissected the training footage that Chimaev's camp released as intimidation material. Rather than viewing it as a demonstration of power and skill, Strickland interpreted it as desperation and weakness, calling Chimaev pathetic for recording private sparring sessions and using them for propaganda purposes. That single observation seemed to penetrate years of carefully constructed mystique, revealing an insecure human being where a terrifying monster was supposed to exist. Strickland's ability to identify that vulnerability and exploit it with surgical precision marked the beginning of Chimaev's psychological collapse. He transformed the supposedly invincible force into just another fighter trying too hard to project dominance while hiding his own fears and insecurities.
They pay good for him. I never made that much money before.
Of course, this isn't pay-per-view, so the numbers are already pre-guaranteed. They're already agreed on in the contract, but Sean is definitely making this a bigger fight. Khamzat's making it a bigger fight. Khamzat's one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and I'm going to give you my breakdown and my prediction to all of that. But first of all, let's get started on the main card. Of course, we've got the return of King Green taking on Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens, an extremely violent man. Of course, Jeremy, the little heathen.
This guy TKO'd people. When I knock people out, they don't f***ing move. Who the f*** is that guy?
When the fourth round commenced and they entered deep championship territory, Chimaev appeared to discover a brief second wind and renewed aggression. However, it represented a classic case of insufficient effort arriving far too late, like attempting to repair a sinking vessel after it's already submerged. The labored breathing visible since round 2 had already revealed the complete story to anyone who understood what they were witnessing. You could observe the realization spreading across his features that his celebrated wrestling wouldn't be sufficient to break someone who operates outside conventional rules and refuses to be intimidated through normal methods. The transformation from predator to prey was evident in his expression, displaying confusion and uncertainty that hadn't appeared since his organizational debut as an unstoppable force. The hunter was experiencing his first taste of being hunted, and the terrifying truth was that he lacked answers for the relentless pressure being applied.
People out, they don't f***ing move. Who the f*** is that guy?
Long career in the UFC, came back to the UFC, fought Mason Jones in Des Moines, Iowa. I was there. It didn't go his way, but let me tell you, it was a very, very entertaining fight. Now, King Green, as we know, another guy that's been around forever. He's getting older. He's almost 40. He's quick, he's slick, but he is 39.
A massive distinction exists between earning a scorecard victory and conquering someone's spirit, and Strickland achieved both on this unforgettable evening. He remained completely unimpressed by the grappling credentials and knockout power, dismissing all the promotional videos and highlight reels as meaningless theater that becomes irrelevant once combat begins. This type of mental strength and unwavering determination separates ordinary champions from immortal legends who are remembered throughout history, and it's precisely what Chimaev appeared to lack when circumstances became difficult and uncomfortable. When oxygen becomes scarce and the gloves feel impossibly heavy, that's when a fighter's true character gets exposed at the deepest level. Unfortunately for Khamzat, the revelations that emerged under extreme duress weren't the ones he hoped to discover about himself.
But he is 39. Has he still got it? Are the reflexes still there? The style won't change. He will talk shit. The hands will be low. He'll be slipping and ripping, moving his head all over the shot, trying to pot shot him, talking shit the entire time. And I think King Green will get the job done. However, Jeremy Stephens, one punch is all it takes. But still, I'm going with the King. How could I go against the King? My God, they'll take my goddamn head off. Anyway, moving on. This is a very, very interesting matchup. Sean Brady taking on Joaquin Buckley. We know Joaquin Buckley, very explosive. He does have good wrestling, but it's mainly on the feet where he is a real big problem. On the flip side,
the emotional aftermath from this shocking upset will reverberate throughout the mixed martial arts community for years because it fundamentally alters the entire middleweight division's landscape and narrative structure. We witnessed one of the most stunning championship upsets in the sport's complete history, something that rivals the most unbelievable and shocking moments ever captured inside the octagon. Watching a massive -500 betting favorite completely collapse under pressure from someone many dismissed as a fortunate or temporary title holder creates a bitter reality check for everyone who believed the promotional hype. It forces casual fans and expert analysts alike to completely reassess their understanding of elite competition and what truly matters when two fighters are isolated together. The established hierarchy has been completely demolished and rebuilt from scratch, and the resulting chaos will be messy, loud, and undoubtedly controversial.
Where he is a real big problem. On the flip side, Sean Brady, as we know, if the man gets you down, you're in a lot of trouble, okay? Last time we saw Joaquin Buckley, it was against Kamaru Usman. That was a while ago. That was in 2025, June. That went down in Atlanta, Georgia. He was taken down pretty much by Kamaru Usman. I'm oversimplifying the fight, but that's essentially what happened. Will Sean Brady be able to do the same thing? Of course, he lost his last one. He got sparred by Michael Morales. Before that, tapped out the former champion Leon Edwards. Sean Brady's going to look to take him down.
As we process the main event's shocking conclusion and attempt to understand what transpired, we must examine the collateral damage affecting other veterans battling their own war against Time's undefeated record. Consider Bobby Green, a longtime division staple now approaching his 40th birthday, which in fighting years represents ancient territory. He retains his quickness and slick movement, showcasing the abilities that sustained his lengthy career success. However, reflexes and split-second reactions that ensure safety deteriorate first in this brutal profession, and that decline cannot be prevented or reversed. His tactical battle against Jeremy Stephens demonstrated intelligent fighting and resilience, a strategic chess match between two experienced warriors. It serves as a sobering reminder that even the most entertaining and dynamic fighting styles must eventually confront the harsh reality of diminishing abilities in what remains fundamentally a young athlete's game, where speed and recovery determine everything.
Former champion Leon Edwards. Sean Brady's going to look to take him down. Joaquin Buckley is a shorter guy. He is very strong. He is very explosive. If it hits the ground...
Jeremy Stephens, known as the Little Heathen, possesses the rare ability to end careers with a single perfectly timed strike. When he delivers knockouts, and truly devastating ones, opponents remain motionless and unconscious, and that type of destructive power doesn't diminish with age like other athletic attributes. The contrast between Green's elusive movement and angle-based striking against Stephens' raw violence and concussive force demonstrated the enduring passion of athletes who refuse to surrender. They aren't competing solely for record improvements or financial bonuses in their accounts. They're fighting for their permanent legacies in an environment that constantly seeks the next marketable superstar to promote and develop. It's a harsh reminder that in the UFC and this unforgiving sport, your value equals your most recent performance, and one terrible night can erase years of accumulated success.
Psychological trauma from that one, because that happened in the very first round. I love Sean Brady. I've got to go with Joaquin Buckley, okay? The man is confident. He always goes forward. He swings for the fences. He can jump in the air and do spinning 360, whatever kick you want to call it.
Sean Brady's jiu-jitsu expertise created another fascinating strategic layer to this incredible evening of consistently delivering fights. Brady entered carrying heavy psychological baggage from his previous devastating knockout loss that severely damaged his confidence and self-belief. Getting finished in the opening round by Bilal Muhammad, getting completely shut down, left permanent mental scars that he needed to overcome before even entering the cage for this contest. For a grappling specialist like Brady, whose entire approach depends on control and technique, the constant fear of getting caught again with a fight-ending shot becomes a persistent shadow influencing every movement and decision. It transforms every exchange into a high-stakes gamble with his entire career hanging in the balance, because another similar loss could send him plummeting down the rankings. Conversely, Joaquin Buckley moves with Matrix-like athleticism and explosiveness while possessing dramatic flair that makes him essential viewing. He combines explosive power with incredible strength and maintains the type of self-confidence that can overcome any statistical analysis or expert predictions. He understands that if the fight reaches the ground and stays there, he faces serious trouble against Brady's elite grappling credentials and submission expertise, but he also knows with absolute certainty that he can end the contest instantly on the feet with one spectacular strike. The tension created by that dynamic and the clash between contrasting styles makes mixed martial arts the most compelling and unpredictable sport to observe. One fighter hunts for neck control and submission opportunities that render opponents unconscious, while the other seeks the chin and that knockout button that instantly turns off the lights.
Ever kick, you want to call it. It was like something out of the Matrix when he had that crazy knockout that time. And I think this time it'll probably catch Sean Brady. However, if Sean Brady does get him down to the ground, bet your bottom dollar it'll be a submission victory. Now moving on to the heavyweight.
Observing Brady desperately pursue takedowns while simultaneously avoiding Buckley's spinning kicks and unpredictable strikes resembled watching a high-speed chess match played with deadly weapons, where single mistakes carry catastrophic consequences. Every inch of progress gained and each step closer to securing ground position required perfect technique and timing, while every mistimed strike or failed attempt represented potential disaster that could result in unconsciousness. The contrast between Brady's systematic grappling approach and technical precision against Buckley's explosive power and creative striking created this compelling narrative of redemption versus ambition and experience versus raw talent. These individual stories of struggle and triumph, the personal journeys each fighter brings with them, build the foundation of events like UFC 328, even when the main event captures all the headlines and dominates post-fight discussions.
That's when you see what a real man is made of. Can they dig deep? Can they be the hammer and the nail? Well, we're going to find out all of the answers.
The harsh reality of combat sports and the truth every participant eventually confronts is that roles can reverse instantly from predator to prey, and that transition is often brutal, sudden, and completely merciless. We observed it with aging veterans fighting to maintain relevance and purpose. We witnessed it with rising contenders attempting to establish their reputations and climb rankings. Most painfully, we saw it with the man destined to become the next great champion and division figurehead. When adrenaline subsides and injuries begin throbbing and demanding attention, these fighters must honestly examine themselves in the mirror and determine if the sacrifice remains worthwhile and justified. For some, the answer comes without hesitation or doubt, but for others, you can observe the competitive fire beginning to flicker and fade as years and accumulated damage take their toll.
Be the hammer and the nail. Well, we're going to find out all of the answers this weekend at UFC 328.
Chimaev's relaxed demeanor during fight week, displaying smiles and calm composure, merely concealed the internal turmoil brewing beneath the surface presentation. He grasped the business aspects quite well, recognizing that controversy and heated confrontations were increasing visibility and financial returns for everyone involved in the event. He was manipulating the media circus and using it strategically to build his personal brand and marketability. However, he may have severely underestimated how much that constant spectacle and attention would deplete his energy reserves before stepping into actual competition. Maintaining superstar status and remaining the center of attention requires a different type of endurance than a 15 or 25-minute fight, demanding mental and emotional stamina that's completely separate from physical conditioning. He attempted to control the narrative and manipulate public perception, but ironically, the promotional game ultimately controlled and manipulated him instead.
Weekend at UFC 328.
The security measures and police escorts surrounding him weren't theatrical elements designed to create artificial drama for television cameras and social media content. They reflected a genuinely dangerous situation that had become too intense and personal for even a warrior like Chimaev to dismiss or ignore completely. When legitimate death threats hang over your head while simultaneously cutting weight and preparing for the most important fight of your career, something will inevitably break under that extreme pressure. The challenge wasn't limited to the physical opponent standing across the octagon from him during competition. It encompassed the hostile environment created around him, the atmosphere of genuine danger and animosity, and the burden of being simultaneously the most hated and most hyped fighter at the exact same time, which can crush even the strongest individuals when it reaches extreme levels.
Tomorrow, talking about all the other stuff. Of course, there's a press conference coming up. Are they going to even allow them to face off? Let the guys face off. They're going to fight in an octagon, getting toe-to-toe, face-to-face, nose-to-nose, as Sean says.
Dick to dick, nipple to nipple in that ring.
Let them get there. Let them get in each other's faces. Let them feel one another's energies. And I'll do a reaction on that, so keep an eye out for that one tomorrow. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. One more time, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel.
Strickland flourished in that chaotic environment because he possesses a survivalist mentality embedded in his core psychology and woven into his fundamental nature. He didn't perceive the threats as distractions or sources of concern that needed to be managed or avoided. He viewed them as natural extensions of the mental world he already inhabits, a reality where danger represents part of the daily experience and routine. By bringing that dark energy directly into the octagon with him, he forced Chimaev to compete on his terms within his world of grit, defiance, and survival, where conventional rules become meaningless. He didn't attempt to become more technically skilled or physically superior through training and preparation. He simply committed to being more durable, more willing to absorb punishment and endure suffering, more dedicated to the fight than his opponent could match. When everything superficial was stripped away, the man willing to venture into the darkest mental and emotional territories was the one who departed with championship gold wrapped around his waist.
And all that good stuff. I'm still here in Vegas coaching the Ultimate Fighter, but down to the last week, so I'll be out of it soon. I'll be back home, I'll be in the regular studio, but there is more videos coming this way this week. Big shout out to John Brannigan, he's my editor. He's gonna make this video.
The controversial scoring of the final round remains a significant talking point that will likely trigger investigations or heated discussions behind closed doors at Athletic Commission headquarters. For any judge to score that round for Chimaev suggests a fundamental misunderstanding or complete misinterpretation of what actually occurred during those crucial final minutes. Strickland was clearly winning the exchanges, landing cleaner and more significant strikes while controlling the action's pace and rhythm throughout the round. If the scoring had reversed and that judge's scorecard became the deciding factor, it would have created a permanent stain on the sport requiring years to overcome while further damaging mixed martial arts judging credibility. Justice ultimately prevailed, but the margin was uncomfortably narrow and dangerously close to becoming a disaster we'd still be discussing decades later. The difficult question now centers on Khamzat's future direction, now that his undefeated record has been permanently erased and his invincibility aura completely stripped away. Does he recommit and attempt rebuilding his reputation from this devastating low point, or has the emotional trauma from this experience pushed him toward a completely different path or potentially out of the sport entirely? The phrase "I'm done" has been whispered after many great upsets throughout combat sports history, and while it might represent heat of the moment emotion, the underlying sentiment carries genuine weight and serious implications. Losing your identity as an unstoppable force creates a real grieving process that every dominant athlete must eventually face, though rarely this early when they should be entering their prime competitive years. The UFC's financial structure ensures these athletes receive substantial compensation for their sacrifices and absorb damage, but no monetary amount can repair a broken spirit or restore a shattered sense of identity and self-worth. The guaranteed contracts and increased brand value benefit bank accounts and secure financial futures, but they provide no comfort during sleepless nights after losses like this, when you're replaying every moment and questioning fundamental beliefs about yourself. Chimaev remains one of the sport's biggest attractions and a massive draw capable of selling pay-per-views, but he's now a star with visible vulnerability that everyone has witnessed and documented for posterity. The blueprint for defeating the Wolf has been published for the entire world to read, study, and implement, and every middleweight contender is taking detailed notes on exactly what Strickland accomplished to neutralize the threat. This weekend at UFC 328 provided more revelations than we anticipated or prepared for, exposing the raw human elements that exist beneath all the bravado and promotional trash talk. We observed what fighters are truly composed of when oxygen becomes scarce and their lifelong dreams begin slipping away before their eyes. We witnessed the distinction between possessing tactical plans and maintaining the sheer willpower to survive regardless of circumstances. It served as a stark reminder that nothing is guaranteed in this game regardless of dominance levels, and the highest peaks often create the steepest falls when things go wrong. The mixed martial arts world has been completely transformed in 25 minutes, leaving everyone struggling to process what we witnessed. As we look toward the future for everyone involved, this night's legacy will be determined by how these fighters respond to their defeats and setbacks. Will Chimaev return with renewed perspective and hunger to prove this was temporary, or was this the moment his competitive fire finally extinguished, and we witnessed the beginning of the end? The questions are numerous and important, with answers only coming through time and more octagon bloodshed. For now, we're left wondering about greatness's true cost and undefeated dreams' fragile nature in such an unpredictable sport. The wolf has been silenced temporarily, his roar reduced to whispers, but this upset's echo will resonate throughout the sport for years to come.